Welcome into the Warchant Hoops Report alongside the managing editor of Warchant.com, Ira Schoffel. My name is Tom Lang. You're catching this video right here on Warchant TV as part of Warchant's baseline to baseline coverage of basketball season as the Noles head into the winter holidays. 2 more games to go, Ira. They've got a 9 p.m. tip against UCF on Saturday, and then Gardner-Webb. They play, I believe it's 7 o'clock next Monday night. But let's get into it, sir. Since the last time we spoke, the Noles went 2-0 in order of opponents. It was University of Florida, where Florida State came away with an 83-71 win. And then they played Georgia Tech in the ACC opener. First time in 4 years, I believe it is, that the Noles win their first ACC game of the season. That one was 74-61 Noles. I guess we should start, Ira, with the UF game. And first of all, our thoughts and sentiments on Kiante Johnson, whose developments this week have been nothing short of remarkably positive. And I know that you were there in attendance, and maybe from a personal perspective, you can paint the picture of what you thought on Saturday to where we are now, which is in a much better place.
Yeah, it's really amazing and amazingly positive. We're all amazingly happy because when it happened during the game, I mean, I don't know if anybody else in the arena had ever seen anything like that. I certainly had not in person. But when he collapsed and the way the first responders responded when they got to him, and they were so hastily calling for more doctors to come over and help, it just was frightening. You know, the way he was taken off the court, it looked like he had gone back out of consciousness. He was kind of in and out there. And then we started talking to people around the program, and they were hearing things from the medical staff and also people from the University of Florida, and it just didn't sound good. And then, you know, we obviously found out later that he was placed into a medically induced coma and then taken back to Shantz in Gainesville, and his family was flown in. And so it was just everything we kept hearing was more and more concerning. And it really cast a pall, not just over that day, but really the next few days. And as you said, the last couple of days, you started to get positive reports. First, they said that he was actually responding to simple requests and simple gestures after they brought him out of his coma. And then the next day or 2 days later, they said he actually was talking and joking and laughing and FaceTiming with his teammates. And I mean, man, I don't know if, you know, I can't recall a situation like that where it looked so bleak. And then that quickly it turned around. You know, I was impressed by Florida State's fan base, the way the team and, you know, University of Florida's athletic director, Scott Strickland, came out and thanked FSU staff for how they handled the situation, how quickly they got him medical treatment. I believe a doctor, a cardiologist came out of the stands, an FSU fan came out of the stands to help. I mean, just really, you know, at the end of the day, assuming he comes through this as well as it sounds, it's really, you know, just a testament to the spirit of togetherness that you don't always see in that rivalry. And so just really happy it's turning out the way it is so far.
Well, and that's one thing that Scott Strickland even said in talking about the people at Florida State and how great they handled the situation and how thankful the University of Florida is for how Florida State performed in those moments. And, you know, it's not about beating your chest for who deserves credit for, you know, giving Kiante the best care possible. You just need somebody they have very important jobs to obviously fulfill the responsibilities of those jobs, Ira. But there's no doubt that while he's not out of the woods yet, we are in a place, I believe, where we can speak about the Florida State basketball game a little bit more with an exhale, and we can remark on what we saw within that game because obviously Kiante Johnson being the preseason SEC player of the year is going to impact the way the game is played up and down the court. But FSU responded from that break, and then in the second half, they put on the afterburners, and they were led by one Scotty Barnes. Your thoughts on what you saw, especially in that second half from the Noles, as they take 7 straight now over the Florida Gators?
You know, like you said, it was kind of hard to talk about that or really write much about it. We didn't cover it on Warchant.com the way we normally would a significant win like that. Like you said, 7th victory in a row in the rivalry. In fact, you know, FSU didn't make their players available which was understandable, but, you know, it was just such a weird set of circumstances, and thankfully not as tragic as we thought. But yeah, looking back at that game, it was really impressive. I was really impressed. I mean, you know, I don't know that I expected Florida State came out a little timid, and I thought Florida was much more the aggressor, and shouldn't be unexpected. Florida is trying to reverse a trend. They had lost 6 straight to FSU, and and I think that FSU now is kind of going to become the hunted. They're number 15 in the country now. They're going to get team's best shot, and Florida really came after them. I didn't think Florida State responded the first 3 or 4 minutes, but as you said, after that timeout, then both teams were kind of a little bit, understandably uneasy after what happened with Kiante Johnson. But Florida State regrouped and then played the way we had seen glimpses in the first couple of games, and really dominated the game from that part out. I thought Scotty Barnes really was impressive. I mean, it was the first chance we got to see what he would do when a team really challenged him and came out and guarded him 40 feet, 50 feet away from the basket, because we didn't get a chance to see that in the first couple of games. And that's what created some of the opportunities for him to have those highlight reel dunks. You also got to see some of his personality, which we had heard about during the preseason, about he's not afraid to let people know how he feels and how he's feeling and what he's about to do to them. And it might have been a little bit over the top. It sounds like Leonard Hamilton, the staff, have corrected that behavior a little bit, but and then MJ Walker had his dunk. I thought that game was as much about asserting their will as it was just being the more skilled, deeper team. And I think you saw that Florida State was more aggressive as that game went on.
They were, and to your point, Ira, Florida came out, they played aggressive defense, and Florida State looked a little bit overwhelmed by the aggressive nature of what Florida brought to the table. It's an 11 a.m. tip. There's just so many things, for context, where you could say, all right, how are you going to respond? Then the Kiante Johnson situation happens, and of course that's gonna have context. It's going to create context for the rest of the game. But I have to say, independent of that, if you can talk about it independently, the ability to finish and play a little bit more nasty in this group. I mean, when you get through your first 6 to 10 games of a season, you start to learn in basketball the personality of a team. And I have to say, the early returns on this group they've got that little edge to them. Scotty Barnes certainly does. MJ showed it with a step over. We talked about that in the post-game show. I mean, how cold-blooded is that, the Iverson step over? I mean, they've got some guys now who will chirp back to a team that might be trying to intimidate Florida State. And then they also have the skill to go along with it, and they parlayed it, Ira, into a 74-61 win over Georgia Tech. That's a tough sequence for the Noles. Just if you're thinking about how many games they play in the span of 6 days, and then there's an emotional spike on Saturday against the Gators, you got to get right back and play your ACC opener against a Georgia Tech team that had taken it to Kentucky and had notched a win on the road at Nebraska. An impressive showing after Georgia Tech got the game close in the second half. A 15-0 run pushes the Yellow Jackets within 1, and then the Noles pull away again. Your thoughts on what you saw for FSU's first ACC win of the season?
Yeah, I think in that game, and then even also going back to the Florida game, especially as it went on, you saw Florida State's defense looking like what it's supposed to look like. The first couple of games in the season, you weren't really sure. Some guys weren't 100% sure of their responsibilities. Preseason was a little bit limited. It was a little bit disjointed because of COVID-19. And so I wondered how long it would take the defense to get ready. I thought in the Florida game, and again in the Georgia Tech game, Florida State's length around the basket really became a factor, really became a problem for these other teams. You're seeing teams get into the paint, but then have to take contested shots or get their shots up quicker or get their shots up higher than they would normally like to because of Florida State's length. But I thought that the Georgia Tech game to me felt like a 2019 Florida State basketball game. Like, you saw more from the bench. You saw guys coming off the bench, understanding their roles. Wyatt Wilkes, Anthony Polite, those guys coming off the bench, hitting threes. You saw the relentless defense. Nagam, the newcomer big man, is it Tanner Nagam? I'm not sure how to pronounce his first name, if it's Tanner or not, but he, I thought he gave them really good minutes. He gave them good minutes in the Florida game. Well, excuse me, he wasn't available at Georgia Tech. He gave them really good minutes in the Florida game. You're just seeing more guys start to figure out their roles, and there's more that still have it. But I thought that was more of a game where you could see Florida State had 5 guys in double figures. They had 8 or 9 guys score early in the first half. It just seemed like, that's closer to what we're going to see down the stretch. The Florida game, they again went with a short rotation, and you just started to wonder how sustainable is that going to be in the long term. I think beginning in that UCF or in that Georgia Tech game, you started to see kind of what we're going to see, the depth from Florida State.
Well, and they needed them, Ira. That's the other thing, too. They needed them in the first half because the offense was stagnant for both sides. That looked like for about, 10, 15 minutes, a 2012 Florida State basketball game because it looked like they might not get into the 30s, either team. And then Wyatt Wilkes goes on his mini run. He's 6 of 12 from the field in the last 2 games Florida State's played. He hit 3 first-half three-pointers on the way to 11 first-half points against Georgia Tech. And to your point, I think it's Tenor, but Ngam, in the second half of the Florida game, he flashes the moves. He is supposed to be a player that provides a more immediate impact because he's a graduate transfer, but because of visa issues and because of a lack of preparation before the season because of COVID, he hasn't exactly learned on the curve that they were expecting. But you saw flashes. And to me, I agree with you. The Georgia Tech game, especially because you're playing so many games in so few nights, and then Raekwon Evans was not available in the game, and Ngam was not available. They should both be, we should note, on Saturday. Because they're not available, you're leaning on some different players. Nathaniel Jack has contributed a couple of three-pointers in back-to-back games, and you never know when he might pop off for a quick 6 or 9 points because of perimeter shooting. There are a lot of guys whose roles are developing, and yet still there are some puzzle pieces to be fit into the picture for Leonard Hamilton. I nominate a couple of guys. The obvious one from preseason expectations would be Calhoun. You see that he has the ability to create space for himself, and he's obviously a scorer, but he's got some room to grow. Leonard Hamilton said in the preseason, Ira, that he's going to have to be more patient with Sardar, and obviously he goes to weird spots on the court, and it's irregular, but he's obviously got the ability to score unlike anybody else who's been here in the program's history. Leonard's words, not mine. And then Malik Osborne, too, with the consistency of Raekwon Gray and with what Balsa is bringing to the table in the post. Where do you fit Malik Osborne if both of those guys are on the court? So still some interesting questions to be sorted out, not just this weekend for the pair of games, but moving forward in the season. And that's what makes it fun, I think, for the coaching staff.
Yeah, I like the way that Jack, to your point, Nathaniel Jack, when he got in, he knew I'm in here to shoot a 3. Yep. And he knocked down a big 3, and it was important. And that that's the thing. We talked about it last week in the first episode that we did, that Wyatt Wilkes, that he needs to remember why he's in there. He needs to not do too much, and we're seeing that now. He seemed much more comfortable these last couple of games. We're not getting the same comfort level from Malik Osborne yet. I think he's still trying to figure it out. I think I think a lot of people expected him to be a starter this year. He might be a guy that thought he was going to be on the court 25 or 30 minutes, and now he's trying to figure out exactly what he can give. He needs to rebound. He needs to be that physical guy inside, make the athletic plays. The nice thing about Calhoun, as you said, is you don't have to run anything for him. And you can see it when he gets the ball and he is going to go get in the paint or look for his shot. And it's a pretty shot. I mean, he can score the basketball. So that's going to be on the coaches as much as it is on him. They've got to figure out the best way to use him. It may be a situation where when you do use him, maybe it's for certain things. You're not maybe asking him to run everything like everybody else. But he's too skilled of a player to not get more out of. So that's going to be fun to watch.
And there's no doubt that in the months to come, I mean, his minutes are going to expand. They've just, for part of the schedule, as you've already said, they had to shrink the rotation. There wasn't the usual exhibition season. They need to get by. This weekend is one where if you want to see Calhoun play and you want to go over to the TLC and for the limited tickets that are available, I would wager that he'll average over 20 minutes a night in these next 2 games. So there's a chance to see him, a little bit more of Nathaniel Jack. And obviously, yeah, like you said, Ira, he's kind of like PJ Savoy, right? He's come in for one thing and one thing only, and it's not his defensive rotations. We should do this, I suppose, every week because he's demanding it of us. I saw this in our conversation beforehand, but how has Scotty Barnes impressed us or blown us away this week? So we have
be just a standing segment.
It just call it. Let me count the ways. So obviously you touched on it a little bit, and so have I in the recaps of the Florida and UCF game or Florida and Georgia Tech game. But what have you seen in the last couple of games that has just left you like everybody else? I think that's watching this program going, "Wow, this guy is different."
I guess in the first couple of games last week when we talked about him, it was the defense. It was stepping up the big plays. He had the shot in overtime to win that game. And you just you were seeing glimpses here and there. What I think this week, it really felt like you saw him asserting himself as, I'm not going to say the star of this team because MJ Walker is off to a great start, and I think MJ Walker has played every bit as much as you would hope. A senior who came in as a McDonald's All-American 4 years ago. He's giving tremendous leadership, shooting. He's so efficient right now, defending really well. But Scotty, you're starting to get the feel like maybe he could be that guy that you get the ball in his hands, and he's gonna do what Trent Forrest was able to do, but at a higher level. The most impressive play I saw from him this past week, it was the dunk that he got right as the shot clock expired. But it wasn't just the play itself; it was how it evolved. The shot clock was running down, and he saw who Georgia Tech had on him. The guy they had on him was a shorter guy, and they were out. He was kind of on the wing, and he came over and told whoever the guard was at the top. He told him to clear out before he even got the ball. He's like, basically get out of the way. And he came to the top of the key, demanded the ball. They got it to him, and he's like, okay, I've got this guy on me. I'm taking him to the basket. And sure enough, it's exactly what he did. Goes in and dunks, gets it off right before the shot clock. To me, for a freshman to have that kind of presence, that kind of wherewithal, and then to make the play is, that was it this week. Even though the dunks against Florida were going to be on highlight reels from now till Scotty Barnes leaves Tallahassee and after, but that play and his presence really impressed me.
Well, I'll tell you that he's got obviously the ability to talk and dance and do whatever that dance. I know the on your head thing, but then also it's like a Fortnite dance or something when they're inbounding the ball. But he was challenged. Scotty Barnes was challenged by Scotty Lewis. You had said from being in the building, you could hear that Scotty Lewis was chirping a lot. And that he's in his second year in Gainesville, and Scotty answers the call. They ran a clear out for Scotty Barnes in the second half of that game, too. It would have been his third dunk, Ira, but he was tugged from behind on the arm. He still finished for an and one, but you see that. I'm glad you noted that from the Georgia Tech game. They'll run some clear outs now for Scotty at the end of games if they can, and if a team would leave the zone and stay in their man principles.
Well, and what he does is it's not just that he's good with the ball or that he can finish. It's the length of his strides. Mm-hmm. Adrian Crawford, who's calling the games now for the Seminole Radio Network, tweeted about this. In that play, he dribbled the ball one time from the top of the key.
Right.
Go out if you play basketball at home, go out there tonight or go out there over the weekend and see how many dribbles it takes you to get from the top of the key to the basket. It's not going to be one unless you're doing one world of traveling. I mean, his strides are so long, and he knows how to do it. That's not that you have to really work at that, and you have to have tremendous athletic ability, obviously. But that's why it's so hard to guard. So it's not just a matter of getting in front. If somebody's got a dribble, you can get in front of them. But it's going to be. It's like every game that's played. Like I want to start counting down. Okay, how many games do we have left?
Right.
To watch him play.
Oh, and it's something new. It's little nuances, and you're right. He's asserting himself. There was a self-discovery, I think. He knows he's going to make millions of dollars at the NBA level, but still, you could see the moment on the first dunk against Florida when he's doing whatever that monster walk is up the court. It's like, I've arrived. I now know that I can do this anytime I want to do it, and it'll be fun to see. Obviously, as the competition stiffens, in a couple weeks' time, it's on the road at Little John against Clemson, and then Florida State hosts Duke on the 2nd of January. But for now, a chance for the rotation to expand a little bit, and dare I say, even against a team like UCF, who might be dangerous. They're like 220th in tempo. Gardner-Webb runs a bit of a faster tempo. But, Ira, here's a chance for the role players to get some more minutes and for the coaching staff to do some eval. So what do you expect to see on Saturday at 9 p.m. on ACC Network and then Monday against Gardner-Webb on regional sports networks?
Yeah, just as you said, a continuation of, I think, what we started to see in the Georgia Tech game, where they're able to start kind of expanding the rotation a little bit. This game would really be, if they can get a couple wins from these two games before the Christmas break, not just get the wins, but get these wins and getting some of those other guys some confidence. Malik Osborne, I think, is a key one. It's one thing for him to go out there and just accept the role he's got. It would be another thing if he actually embraced it, cherished it, maximized it, the way a guy like Fiondu Kaibangeli did, the way a guy like Patrick Williams did. If you're going to be that sixth guy, you can't just come out there and pace yourself the way you would if you were in the starting lineup. It's got to be energy. It's got to be an aggression. It's got to be a physicality. It's the other team's wearing down a little bit. You're coming in and you're pushing it further. You're not supposed to come in and lose the lead or just keep it the same. Your job is to come in and extend it, make those energy plays. And if they can get that out of him, and I think these couple of games will be a big part of that. Also, you'd like to see Quincy Bauer, the freshman big man, get some minutes. Calhoun really kind of come into his own. I think, originally we talked about this a couple of weeks ago that we were worried because of the way the schedule got changed around. You lost that Gardner-Webb game. You got really thrust into action early against good teams. But now I think it's going to work out okay because they're going to get these 2 games now before the ACC schedule really ramps up, as you said, with the Clemson and Duke games. But then also right after that, you get a little break for the holidays, some more time to fine-tune some things. This is going to be a chance for them to, assuming you get these wins, and it's not a guarantee. UCF's a decent team, but it gives you a chance to just kind of gather yourself and really focus on what you need to improve on, get a breath, and then really embark on ACC play.
Yeah, it gets really exciting because you get through this slate without a setback, without a loss, and it feels like the floor just keeps coming up higher and higher. The ceiling we're only discovering, right? But we now know the baseline of what to expect from this group is not far off from what last year's group did, which gets really, really fun. And for Noles fans who want to enjoy another double dip on Saturday, the TV network spaced these things out about as far as you can, short of the Noles playing in Hawaii, because you've got a 12 o'clock kick on ACC network. That's Noles and Wake Forest. A 9 o'clock tip for Florida State and UCF. That also is on ACC network. Monday, of course, the Gardner-Webb game on regional sports networks, as I said. And then for all the coverage here at warchant.com, Warchant TV, if you have not already, hit subscribe, hit the bell. Every time Warchant TV goes live, every time there's a new video, you will be notified. 10 a.m. on Saturday. Set your alarms, folks. Jeff Cameron and myself for Tallahassee Game Day. We'll get you primed for mostly football, maybe a segment on basketball, maybe 2. And then, of course, in the postgame show, 10 minutes after we're done, Gene Williams and myself will log on right here, Warchant TV's call-in show, where you guys can air your grievances ahead of this holiday season. And then, of course, Corey Clark's going to be up there live. He's covering the game for Florida State and Wake Forest. Ira, you're going to be running the show back here, and you're going to be pushing all the right buttons and commanding everybody. Anything else for Warchant coverage this weekend that you want to highlight before we sign off tonight?
No, that would be it. Just kind of wrapping up recruiting. Just had signing day. It's been a busy week, but yeah, Corey will be up there on Snuggy Hill. We'll have our wrap show as well, our video show as well via Zoom, and then plenty of coverage from basketball that night. I'll be at the Tucker Center watching the Noles take on UCF, and maybe writing about this big breakout bench performance from some of those guys on the bench.
I can already see the headlines right now. Hopefully, Corey brings us home some white wine from Snuggy Hill as well. Yes. I hope you let him take the picnic basket too.
Exactly.
Until next time, everybody on the Warchant Hoops Report. He's Ira Schoffel. My name is Tom Lang. Remember to hit that subscribe button, and we will talk to you next week before the holidays begin.